Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Guilty as Charged podcast. What happened today? I missed it. Was there a football game? I'm unsure. We'll dive into everything that happened today. Excited to get into it, despite the loss with my guys, Alex and Tyler. Tyler, we'll start with you today, man. How are you doing?
Some days you just wonder, like, oh, could I have taken a nap for 3 hours? Yeah, I could have taken a nap, and I really should have. But no, got to watch that ugly fest. But it is what it is. 4-2 ain't bad.
Yeah, all things considered, we'll get into all the ramifications. But took my dog on a walk after the game, hopped on the Peloton bike, cleared my head. So I'm ready to go, man. Alex is here as well in hashtag defeat purple. Alex, your morning started off good. And then the Chargers happened, but how are you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. The more I thought about it after the whole Urban Meyer thing, like the universe really needed to reassess the tectonic plates a little bit, So Brandon Staley had to lose as he's Twitter's favorite, and Urban Meyer had to win because Twitter hates him. So, it had to balance out. But hopefully, next week after the bye, the Chargers get back on track.
Yeah, the universe had to really correct itself because after Urban Meyer won, the whole rest of the day was shit. There were so many blowouts today. I don't think I've ever seen this many blowouts on an NFL Sunday. Yeah. So, I guess at least we're not alone today. Other teams got blown out too. The Cardinals are handing it to the Browns right now. The Broncos are getting destroyed by the Raiders after their mess. So, just a very weird day of football. I can't remember a day where there were this many blowouts in the league.
Glad we got to be a part of it.
Yeah. I'd like to I said that the Chargers-Ravens should get flexed into Sunday Night Football, and thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah, thank God that didn't happen. So we're going to dive into everything. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor today before we start, ExpressVPN. If you saw my tweets last night, you know that NFL Game Pass is an absolute shit show for those in the States. I could not believe how awful that website update is. Anytime I tried to rewind, it would just glitch back and then skip towards the next play. It was incredibly frustrating. And then I remember that I had a ExpressVPN membership. Shout out to them. And I was able to actually sit down and watch some film from last week. So if you want to have a better viewing experience of the replay of the Chargers games, please go check out expressvpn.com/guilty, and you can get a free trial on us. So shout out to ExpressVPN.
If you want to replay all 22 yards that the Chargers got today, you can watch the all 22 with expressvpn.com/guilty.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump into some of these takes today. I want to keep it kind of general at first, and then we'll dive into the specifics like we always do. Before we get started, I want everybody to take a deep breath and insert the Woosaw gif from Bad Boys 2 here. Take a deep breath. We'll dive into everything and have a nice therapy session where we vent out all our frustrations, talk about everything that happened. It's gonna be exciting. So that being said, Alex, let's start with you. I'm excited to see where your first takeaway is here. But what do you have for us today, man?
First, I want to start by saying people added me on Twitter and were like, "Oh, I bet Alex is happy." What the fuck is wrong with you? Do you think CBS cutting 13 minutes away just because I was right on my game pick makes me happy? No. The Chargers collapsed today, and that was not pretty. They lost 34-6. I did not expect that at all. But I think when you look at some of the underlying reasons that this game happened, it was what we talked about in the pregame show. The run defense is still the run defense, unfortunately. The special teams is still the special teams, unfortunately. And, on top of those things, they had a bad Herbert game. That is going to happen, once out of every 10 times maybe. That's just the reality of the NFL, especially on the road. Tough 1 p.m. game. And they also had a bad Staley game, unfortunately. Really not a banner day for the coaching staff. Brandon Staley electing to use that first challenge, then not using the timeout before the half to try to get points. It was a really confusing day for him overall. But yeah, no, the offense is definitely sort of the story of this game, but so is the defense. Not sure really what to make of this one, other than I think the Chargers bye week is coming at an opportune time. because frankly, they need to get Kenneth Murray back. They need to get Drew Tranquil back. They need to get Justin Jones back, Brian Balaga. The list goes on because right now, as currently constructed, I don't think they're deep enough on defense. Nas Adderley as well, who they missed today for sure. So yeah, they just need to get bodies back on defense, take a week, and then go play the Patriots. Because to me, this was sort of all of the other problems that we saw from the other 5 games that didn't cost them, but they all sort of, combined into one Super Bowl and, cost them today. So that's really my takeaway. But I didn't feel too optimistic coming into this game, but I was not this lack of optimistic, It was not pretty to watch.
Yeah, it wasn't the best game to watch. Unfortunately, and I see some in the comments are kind of debating this. I don't think the Chargers win this game if they're fully healthy. It could be closer, absolutely, but they just didn't have the best game plan. There were drops, there were missed tackles, missed throws, interceptions, and Baltimore just executed. They looked really good on offense, looked really good on defense, and as Alec pointed out on the pregame show, they're great on special teams, and they were just that much better. The Chargers could not figure out anything on special teams, and the Ravens did nothing but do good things on special teams. So, hopefully in the future they can do better. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't think this team healthy beats this team today. I think them healthy, they could beat the Ravens in the future. But today, everything just went the Ravens' way. Not much went the Chargers' way. So to me, I'm just going to kind of burn this and move on. I think the Chargers, I don't know. My only concern with them coming out of the bye is that a lot of the problems were supposed to be addressed in the offseason, and they weren't. And I think all those problems are going to continue moving forward. So unless they make a significant move, and even then, I don't think Fletcher Cox or Akeem Hicks are going to change this. I think they're just going to roll with the same issues and just be slightly better in those areas and be slightly better or continue their excellence on offense. But I don't see a whole lot changing, barring some big moves. So, get it together. Thankfully, they're heading into the nice, stretch of their games. But they're a good team. They're a really good team. But I think the problems are just going to be the problems, and I don't think a bye week is going to change that because an offseason sure didn't.
Yeah, I think the healthy comment is an interesting one because I think having Nasir Adderley in this game, having Drew Tranquil in this game definitely helps. Maybe you limit the Ravens to 27 points as opposed to 36, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. To me, this game is about the offense. And I know, and Alex talked about the special teams, and they're certainly to blame too. And we saw one of these teams execute at a very high level on both sides, and the other one didn't. And the Ravens were getting short fields because of turnovers on downs, punt returns, kick returns, all of that. They had short field after short field. The Chargers are starting on the 10, on the 15. They're not executing. They're dropping passes. Herbert's ball placement was kind of a mess today. And listen, I don't want it to seem like we are slandering Justin Herbert, right? We all said that he was an MVP candidate after last week's win. Shit happens in the NFL. Sometimes you have a bad game. So I'm chalking this up as a bad game, and the team is going to flush it and move on. It kind of sucks that they don't get a game this week to really, kind of move on in the way that they need to. It is kind of a fortunate but also unfortunate timing for a bye. But to me, this was just the Chargers didn't execute well enough. They didn't have a single drive on offense that lasted for more than 5 minutes. When was the last time we saw that? Every single drive was a minute 30, minute 45, 2 minutes. So the offense just had a lot of issues. They couldn't get into a rhythm until really they had one solid drive. It didn't end in points. The one touchdown was after the turnover. So to me, you can crush the defense all you want, but when you're playing that many short fields, when you're up against the wall like that and you're not healthy, it's just, you're not going to win those games on defense. And so I thought that heading into the game, we'd see a few sacks, we'd see a couple turnovers, and they did that. So I'm kind of okay with the way the defense played. To me, the issues were offense first and then special teams second.
Yeah, it's really hard to look at the points given up and say, oh, defense played all right. But I think there were definitely some moments where they played well, certainly shorthanded. And while the Ravens may have given away some points in terms of not being able to score touchdowns off of the failed fourth down conversions, Like the defense did hold them to 6 points on 2 failed fourth downs and like within their 25.
Sure.
So I mean that's a pretty decent performance there, all things considered. But it just wasn't enough.
No, it wasn't. Like I'm not like make no mistake. Like they need to fix some things, right?
Oh
But like
yeah,
if I knew heading into this game there would be no Adderley, no Tranquil, that Michael Davis would essentially get benched, which we will definitely get into,
fucking
and
hell.
would lead to they had 3 or 4 sacks, they had 2 turnovers, and then the one in garbage time. Like I would have been like, okay, like it was a close competitive game. And like that's really what the Chargers defense needs to do at this point is create some pressures, create some sacks, create a couple turnovers, because unless they get some big time trade, like even if you trade for Akeem Hicks, like it's not going to solve everything.
No.
It will help, but to me, like this defense just doesn't have the personnel that Brandon Staley wants, apparently. So it's frustrating to watch, but like I said, they got 2 turnovers early. One of them was a forced fumble that didn't really turn into anything but resulted in a punt. They got a few sacks to save them at the end. And to me, I would have taken this game. I would have defensively, like I would have been okay with this one. Not happy, obviously, but I think they played decent at least.
Yeah, I thought they played okay. I really think the problem is just they were, and this is what we talked about a little bit with sustainability on the last podcast. It's like, okay, well, if you're 32nd in run defense and you're 29th in special teams, the problem with that is Herbert's probably going to have a bad game at some point. And the problem is, okay, well, Schofield and Norton might not be great this game. Or some of the other problems they had on offense with Joe Lombardi, not really scheming players open, plenty of drops today. So all of those things kind of went against the offense, and I think really maximized some of the issues that they have on defense in the other areas. So I think that's kind of what we were talking about in terms of sustainability, and one of the reasons that I didn't feel super confident coming into this game, because they are playing a good Ravens team and the best team left on their schedule coming into this. And that was just the problem when looking at these teams and seeing who would come out on top is just the number of things that went against the Chargers. I mean, and so they got away with that last week. Obviously 47 points on the offense, but you're just not gonna get away with that every week. And this week they didn't.
Yeah, it was just they could not get into a rhythm at all today. The offense got completely outclassed, and I didn't feel like the Ravens defense was doing anything special. I'll have to go back and watch the film, but to me, it was just the Chargers offense did not show up today. And sometimes that happens. I think in the NFL, every team is going to have a bad day. We saw the Packers come out and get destroyed by the Saints in the first week. The Steelers or the Bills lost to the Steelers in the first week. The Buccaneers have had a bad game against the Rams. The Rams had a bad game against the Cardinals. So this just happens in the NFL. And I think there's a certain, Ravens fan in here, I'm guessing, that's apparently saying that the Chargers got exposed. There's no general takeaways from this game, in my opinion. The Chargers are 4-2. They have everything they want and, to accomplish is still ahead of them. It's just today was a really bad day, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's dive into some of the specifics in this game.
Please.
Tyler, I know you're chomping at the bit here to talk about some of the personnel decisions here. So what do you make of Michael Davis, man?
I don't get it. I first off, okay, if we're talking about run defense, I mean, he looks pretty good against the Raiders. So 2 games ago, he looks fine. Like he's playing the run, no problem. So what happened? He's given up 31 yards the past 2 weeks, and he was benched today for what? I don't understand what he was benched for after giving up 31 yards the last 2 weeks. And I don't believe giving up a catch against Waller. They bench him for Campbell. And of course, Andrew has a great day. And granted, Davis isn't the only guy responsible for Andrews, but he could have been. And he was covering Darren Waller. And again, gave up 0 catches, 31 yards the last 2 weeks. And I was thinking, okay, did I miss something this game that would indicate, a reason that Michael Davis should have been benched today for Devon Campbell? He gave up 4 yards, 1 catch for 4 yards today. And he missed a tackle, I believe. But like Asante Samuel Jr. missed 2, Kaiser White missed 2. I think there were 9 missed tackles this game. Maybe he would have missed another one if he played the whole game, sure. But I don't understand why you would take Davis off the field. His missed tackle rate this season is just 5 spots below, I think, Jalen Ramsey and Marshawn Lattimore, at least coming into this game. So it's not like you're benching those two guys. So what are they doing? I don't understand why you would take your chess piece, your guy who can cover different players, the only real guy other than Campbell who has speed, who is a much better coverage guy than Campbell, probably. I would assume so. I mean, again, 35 yards the past 3 weeks. He's getting up 35 yards the past 3 weeks, and they benched him. I don't understand the thought process behind that. And why would you take one of your better players off the field? If this were, something like week 1 where he give up the big catch to, I think, Terry McLaurin, and then maybe that continues and things aren't good, maybe bench him. But it wasn't. He's on the upswing and they benched him. And I don't understand that. What else happened? Well, the interesting about Asante Samuel Jr. is he got benched last week, and then you see him on that missed tackle today, the one that everyone saw. It was like he was trying to be less aggressive and fix what happened last week, where he was kind of just jumping in there and then missing the tackle. Where in this one, he looked like really hesitant walking up, and it's like the mentality of who Asante Samuel Jr. is was changed. I think Michael Peterson pointed this out. It looked like a different player. So that's just Michael Davis. And then if you don't mind, I'm going to continue with this.
Go ahead.
You start with Larry Roundtree at the beginning of the year. That's your slowest back. And so what do? Let's put KJ Hill, your slowest wide receiver, there at kick returner. So that gets them to the 20. And of course they switched to Guyton mid-game, and it gets them to the 30-something, although there was a penalty, of course. Right. They're trying on punt returns. They're trying the dual returner look, which is really odd. Again, the Michael Davis thing being benched was really weird. Where was Donald Parham? Obviously he got hurt in the fourth quarter, but he wasn't exactly involved. Keenan Allen, where'd he go? I hear people saying that he was completely open in the middle for almost the entire game. Some, Herbert says that they were covering him pretty well. I guess we'll have to look. Eckler was involved far less than he should have been. I don't understand why Nick Neiman or why Ogbong Bamiga got 2.5 times the snaps of Neiman for most of the game. This doesn't make any sense. I just don't understand some of these personnel decisions. Some of them, I guess on defense, the coach is the coach. He knows what he's doing. But whether it's special teams or offense, everything just seems so weird to me. But the Davis thing does not make any sense to me. I need to, to me, if the all-22 shows up and he's getting killed in coverage and he's just not getting targeted, maybe that's one thing. But was he getting killed? I just don't think so. After watching him blanket and negate anything Darren Waller was able to do, I can't imagine that all of a sudden he's become terrible, especially when the stats are in his favor. 35 yards in 3 weeks against some pretty good offenses, and he was benched. It doesn't make any sense to me. I hope someone can make sense of it because I'm at a loss right now.
Well, and it's not like the coverage from the other players was that much better. It's not like we were sitting here going, wow, Tavon Campbell was awesome today. Wow, Chris Harris was great today. So, Brandon Staley said after the game that it wasn't about Michael Davis. It was about them wanting to get more snaps for Tavon Campbell. And oh my gosh, Trayvon Diggs got another pick 6. That dude is crazy, man. That dude is insane. But so he says that it's not about Davis being bad, but we didn't see him at all in the third quarter or the fourth quarter. And so I understand Tavon Campbell's playing well. That's totally fine. But if you're wanting to get Tavon Campbell out there, why is Trey Marshall playing to start the game? Why is Alohi Gilman playing to start the game? You know what I mean? To me, if Tavon Campbell is the guy that you want to get more snaps to, then you don't take off Michael Davis for him, and you don't take off Asante Samuel Jr. for him. Mm-hmm. I understand that Brandon Staley does not, financial ramifications or draft capital don't really matter to him, but you paid Michael Davis to be your best corner, and he's been your best corner. I know everybody has loved Asante Samuel Jr. I've been very excited about that as well, but Michael Davis has been the best corner on this team. So to swap him out for Tavon Campbell, and then the players that you're putting in are not exactly doing great either. It was odd. The whole day was weird. They signed Senyo Kalemete this week, and he's active instead of Brendan Hymas. And the whole thing is just weird. It's just weird to me, the personnel decisions. And these coaches know way more football than I could ever dream to learn. But there's some disconnect for me. Why are we hearing about all these positive players and it's not resulting in what's happening? They all loved Larry Roundtree. Larry Roundtree was doing great on special teams. They really liked his vision. Then randomly, it's like, okay, well, here's a Joshua Kelly game. And okay, here's another one. Oh, because Justin Jackson's back. So now we can't play Larry Roundtree. And Brendan Hymas is a starting caliber guard. We heard that from the coaches in training camp. But he's been inactive every single game. So some of the personnel stuff is weird to me. And, I've been very, profusive of my admiration for Brandon Staley, and he deserves it at this point. But some of the personnel decisions have been very weird, and I would love some actual explanations rather than just like, well, we want to get Tavon Campbell more snaps. Okay, but what are we doing? Why are we taking Michael Davis off the field?
Yeah. When Staley says that someone wasn't benched, that's complete fucking horseshit. To be totally honest with you, because Asante Samuel Jr. was benched last game, and frankly, I think it's really disappointing that he just answers that they weren't benched and that we want to put Tavon Campbell on the field more. Yeah. Here's the thing: Tavon Campbell does not make $8 million to be CB1. And Michael Davis has been the best cornerback for this team all year. To just weirdly take him out because he allowed a 4-yard completion, like, there's no defending it. There's no way that I can possibly, defend it. And, people bring up Forrest Merrill in the chat. Forrest Merrill was inactive and they got steamrolled in the run game. They might have still got steamrolled in the run game with Forrest Merrill because they have all year. But, might have helped today. Joshua Kelly, over Roundtree after all the Roundtree hype. I don't know what that's about. I thought Roundtree had actually been playing pretty well. So I thought there were a lot of confusing decisions made today in terms of the active-inactive list, which is why I said on Twitter that Stephen calling the decisions interesting is why he runs the account and not me. But no, I mean, I thought the defensive decisions were just weird too. I'm surprised it took Tyler 2 minutes to mention Nick Neiman. That only came at the back end, But no, I thought Neiman being played, or Ogbong Bamiga having so much more playing time than Neiman was weird. I don't know what that was about. So yeah, no, I just thought the whole defensive game plan and personnel decisions in particular was weird. And then, we'll talk about the offense a little bit later, but I also thought that the offense just looked pretty disconnected and discombobulated. And while Joe Lombardi did a great job of scheming guys open last week, there just wasn't any of that this week. And then, unfortunately, Justin Herbert is adding into it by throwing to Josh Palmer on Marlon Humphrey on a critical down. So there's just weird stuff all around this game. I don't think it has long-term ramifications, but I do think, when we talk about special teams, run defense, pass defense, this stuff needs to be figured out sooner rather than later.
Yes. So, I think that's a good point to switch it to, Joe Lombardi a little bit, because he was catching a ton of heat today, and I think some of it is justified. I have a hard time criticizing a lot of the play calling today, though, because, there was that one after the Ravens got up 14, and I think it might have been after the Chargers touchdown, the Ravens, punt, and then the Chargers are running the ball, and they're trying to burn some clock. And everybody's like, well, why are they running the football? It's like your defense is getting gashed. You're trying to give them a break. That's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to give the defense a break. And then they get into a 3rd and 3, and Mike Williams drops a pass. And it's like, what is Joe Lombardi supposed to do differently there? You get a good gain on 1st down. You get a good gain on 2nd down. You get a manageable, scenario on 3rd down. And Mike Williams drops a pass. What is happening? Why are we criticizing Joe Lombardi like he's Shane Steichen? And I know Arjun said that he likes Shane Steichen more, which I do not understand. But, it's just the thing with Lombardi today is that he was definitely up and down for sure. But everybody was like, this guy sucks. He's a terrible offensive coordinator. And it was just a bad game. And that happens to coaches too. But I think there were some overreaching takes on Twitter about Joe Lombardi, in my opinion. Yeah, no, I thought Joe Lombardi was okay today. I thought that there were some things that could have been schemed better. Run pass is not super inspiring, even though they kind of had to do that. In terms of the drops, I felt like a lot of that was miscommunication just between Herbert and other guys, like that Herbert to Eckler throw that just was kind of weirdly timed.
So there were a couple moments like that, but yeah, no, Joe Lombardi is not the coordinator that I think deserves the most ire.
Well, in that sense, not even close.
No.
No, but like there were definitely some things that could have been differently, right? And I think we don't get to say like, oh, this offense is amazing, like it's so much fun to watch one week, and then the next week when it's bad, well, fire the offensive coordinator.
Right.
Well, there's a little nuance here. Like there's some context, and I think the execution was off. Right,
guys, they just scored 47 points last week.
I know.
I think we just need to chill a little bit.
Yeah, I think Joe Lombardi's doing like. I wish that they had the best offensive coordinator in their league, like everybody does, but I think Lombardi is still learning, and he's only been an offensive coordinator for 20 games or whatever the case is. So today was just a bad day, and unfortunately, that's what happens when you have, this kind of game is really where you're missing having an experienced coaching staff. Like this is the one, because they needed to hunker down and make these adjustments, and they didn't. And that's offense, special teams, and defense.
As far as Lombardi goes, they came out with a great plan to open the year to get Mike Williams involved, and they executed that really freaking well. Yeah. Now that he's hurt, or now that maybe teams are covering him, or I don't know, now it's time for Lombardi to make his own switch and figure out how to get other players in the offense involved. I think we started to see that the last couple of weeks, especially with Donald Parham. It just seems like now we need to find a way to get Keenan Allen more involved. Maybe he's getting locked up. I don't know. I haven't watched Keenan Allen film really, because that's just like, he's Keenan Allen. Let us do his thing. But maybe I'll have to, because I need a good reason for why he's not getting open. Is it him? Is it the scheme? I don't know. But hopefully Lombardi can, okay, look, I had a great plan for getting Williams involved. Herbert looks really good. But now let's find different ways to get other guys involved. And maybe it's the Keenan Allen show after the bye. I don't know. But we'll see how he responds to something like this.
Yeah, I think in general terms, right? Like football and specifically the NFL is about how do you respond after losing games? How do you respond after getting punched in the mouth? And today it wasn't pretty. Now they have a bye week. They can kind of reset. Hopefully get some reinforcements back on defense. Get Mike Williams healthy. Make some of these adjustments and come out swinging against the Patriots. And that's just kind of the general sense that I'm getting right now. But I know that there's more to dive into this game, and I know that Alex wants to talk about some special teams today. It was like very bittersweet to watch my guy Devin Duvernay just like run up and down the field, and I don't know what his final tallies were, or his final tally was, but man, like it was so clear in this game the difference in special teams, and Alex was all on top of that this week when we were doing our preview. So. Alex, your special teams take. Go for it.
Vizcaino should be left in Maryland with a bottle of Old Bay seasoning, and someone should just give him a crab leg if he wants to eat it. That's where he should be left. As far as Darius Swinton, I think he should be firmly on the hot seat. Frankly, I know the personnel is not an excuse. He's had plenty of chances to change the personnel. He got Jalen Guyton in one time this week, and it was called back by a special teams penalty. Shocker. So that was great. But no, like it's just inexcusable special teams. Like I don't know what we're doing here. They're down 17-6 at the half. They kind of get back into the game, and then they get burned on a return by that was Duvernay, who returned it over the 50-yard line. Like, so, like what are we doing? I don't,
just laughing at the comment right here. Throw a golf ball and mustard at him.
Could someone explain that to me?
The Tennessee game thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So you missed that last night.
No, I fell asleep at like 9 o'clock.
The Tennessee fans threw garbage onto the field last night, and they threw a golf ball. One of them threw a golf ball at Lane Kiffin, the Mississippi coach.
Oh, man.
And it was kind of funny, but also very trashy by the people in Tennessee.
Well, it's good to know that the Tennessee fans are still too good for Greg Schiano. But anyway, I think no, ultimately, like, someone messaged me on Twitter and was like, "Oh, actually, I don't think special teams is the problem because they're down 34-6." I'm like, no, it's not the problem.
It's a big
offense
problem, though.
Was worse. Yeah, the offense was worse if we want to say that. But like all of this shit adds up during the game. They didn't allow a big kick return touchdown. They didn't, have like a Justin Tucker 69-yard field goal, or like, Vizcaino misses a crucial point. But like all of this adds up over the course of the game. And this has been happening week after week. And I don't know like how you fix it at this point. Like, I think it's a personnel issue because they have like repeatedly not wanted to try new kick returners, and they've sort of done it, but it's been like a very, half-assed commitment to trying something different. They decided to sit Larry Roundtree because, of not contributing on special teams, and they didn't want him on kick return anymore. So then they bring in a confusing mix of Guyton and KJ Hill. So I'm not sure what they're really doing. Like, I think that if we're talking about all of the things that can realistically be fixed by the bye, one of them I think is just health, right? Like it's getting people like Drew Tranquil and Kenneth Murray and Justin Jones and that whole litany of guys, Brian Balaga back. But the other thing that's more easily fixable is just getting guys to make routine special teams plays, particularly in coverage and blocking. Like it shouldn't be this hard. And, also get a new kicker. Like this should be pretty simple. Or let Ty Long take the kicks. I don't know what the solution is. Just fix it.
Yeah, I think like there is some leeway with the special teams, or there was, because there's a lot of young players that were, taking these reps. But you had all training camp to figure out, what to do with the kick returner and punt returner situations. And it has not been great. Like we saw in this game, Devin Duvernay is giving the Ravens short field after short field. And that doesn't help the defense. A defense that can't get off the field and stop the run is now dealing with short fields on every single drive because their offense is either turning the ball over or their special teams unit is giving up big return after big return after big return. So, it's at the end of the day, like you have to do a better job, covering. You have to do a better job in the return game. And they were trying different things today. I guess like you could spin that as a positive, trying to get Jalen Guyton involved as a returner. But I don't know. It's just been puzzling. Like it's cool that you guys are practicing special teams so much, but at some point we need to see it.
That's right.
Turn into a serviceable special teams unit. Like there's no point in practicing, all these special teams drills throughout training camp and spending more time on special teams than any team apparently that any of these beat writers have ever seen, and the unit is still bad. And they moved up to I think 28th in DVOA rankings after last week. I think this week they'll probably move back down to 31st or 32nd. Like it's not pretty. And they're going to be patient with Tristan Vizcaino. I totally understand that. He's a young kicker. They want to give him a chance, but you can fix the return game rather easily. Like just get some more juice back there.
Yeah, why don't you just let Austin Prohl keep his job like he had at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. Well, also like I get the wanting to let Vizcaino grow thing. Like I get it. Because there's been Lambo and Koo who have gone on to greener pastures and had success. Like I get it, but like the expectations for this team has changed, right? They're 4-2. Right. They have 4 winnable games coming up. And, the expectations have gone from maybe playoff contender to maybe Super Bowl contender, right? And I know that's not what people want to hear after today, but like that is the expectation of this team. So to me, having a kicker who's going to be a liability is a problem. Now, I don't know if they're going to cut Tristan Vizcaino tomorrow, 3 weeks from now, whatever it is, but like, what is the path to him developing? Like, I really don't see one where he's getting better at this because he's missing extra points with wind, with no wind. It's a problem, like Tyler said on Twitter, like I can understand missing field goals, but I cannot understand 10 yards to the right on extra points. Like it's problematic. But yeah, no, like to me, they don't have the margin for error, especially with the injuries that they have on defense right now and some of the problems with the offense. Like, to me, you don't have the margin of error to be this bad at special teams. And like one of the easy ways you can fix that is Vizcaino, just by trying out other guys. And then one of the other ways is just fixing coverage and everything like that. blocking as well, which has been a pretty big problem on a lot of field goals. So, you know, I'm not going to go like too much deeper into it. We already sort of talked about a lot of stuff, but you know, to me, like this is the difference and why the Chargers have had to play around special teams all of these weeks and not let this guy kick any field goals and have to go for it on every fourth down. It worked out the last 5 weeks, but didn't work out today. Like when we talk about all the problems they had. So, yeah.
And up next is the New England Patriots.
No, yeah, they're not well coached at all.
Yeah, not at all.
Mm.
Well, speaking of the Patriots, they are tied at 29.
Oh,
so
they tied it.
After the Trayvon Diggs interception pick 6, Mac Jones threw a 75-yard touchdown pass to Kendrick Bourne, and the Cowboys just went and kicked a field goal to tie it up. So
guess who was in coverage?
Trayvon Diggs. That's what I heard. Yeah. So I have notifications on for Mike Garafolo of NFL Network,
okay,
right?
yeah.
And after the pick 6, he tweeted was like, "Stop throwing at 7." And then after the touchdown was like, "Okay, I guess you could throw it at 7 sometimes."
Oh man.
So good stuff. So I want to talk about the Chargers pass rush next, because that was one of the things that I talked about. That was my big takeaway or big storyline I was focusing in on this week. And you know, they had the sacks right at the start, right at the as halftime was approaching, right? And other than that, like, it wasn't great. Like, it really wasn't. It was super fun to see Linval Joseph sack. You know, weirdly, he was like top 10 in pass rush win rate on ESPN. So like, I kind of felt like that was potentially coming. And my wife loves Linval Joseph. Like, I don't know what it is. You know, she just loves Linval Joseph. And so when he got that sack, like, she jumped up and was yelling. It was hilarious to watch. Bosa got a sack and Wosu got a sack. But is it time to be concerned about the Chargers pass rush, I guess, is my question. And Tyler, we'll start with you on that one.
I want to see a little bit more, because I feel like when the pass rush, or at least the stats, have been low, I feel like the teams have been able to work around that, like the Browns did. But the Ravens didn't really like do a whole lot to work around that. They really just protected pretty well. And yeah, Mosu had a sack, Bosa had a sack, but the edge rushers had 3 pressures and 2 of them were sacks, and that's it. It was Bosa with 2 pressures and Mosu with 1. Fackrell didn't do anything, and obviously Rump didn't do anything. So, you know, I like the way that they can manufacture pressures when Trenko comes back, and maybe Murray White, I think, led the team in pressures with 3. So there are ways to manufacture pressures, but in terms of the interior, with, you know, again, Jerry Tillery's pass rush win rate is awful despite being single covered. Yeah, I think it is time to worry if you can't close out these games. And, you know, the unfortunate part is Joey Bosa, you'll watch some plays where he's getting triple teamed. And it's like, okay, we're going to do everything to make sure Joey Bosa doesn't get to our guy. So they triple team him, running backs, tight ends, linemen, whatever. And they're like, okay, you know, it's one-on-one on the other side. You don't have to scheme that open. And Mosu's got a one-on-one, Fackrell, Rumpf, whoever. They have their one-on-ones. Defensive tackles have their one-on-ones. And nothing happened. That's the part that's getting really concerning to me. I get, you know, if you have different ways of stopping guys or whatever, but if you're just focusing on Joey Bosa, you expect another guy on the other side to get free, and nobody did anything today. And that was the part that was most concerning for me. So I do want to see a little bit more, you know, dropbacks, more maybe another team trying to score to catch up and maybe not have the lead. But it's starting to be concerned. I'm not worried yet, but I'm starting to get concerned.
So really quickly before Alex jumps in, Kaiser White did lead the team in pressures with 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not concerned because of this game. I feel like this has been the situation for the Chargers most of the season, right? Like, you have Joey Bosa, who's going to manufacture his own pressure and draw his own attention. That's already been pretty clear. You have guys like Uchenna Nwosu and Kyler Fackrell, who I think are decent. Like, you know, they'll get theirs at points. But other than that, like, it's a lot of players who sometimes will be there and sometimes won't, right? Like, we've talked about how hot and cold Jerry Tillery is, and he's been Antarctica for the last, like, 3 weeks, to be honest. So, you know, like, that's just how it goes sometimes. They don't have a guy on the interior that they can trust to be solid and get after the get after the quarterback from game to game. Like they don't have that right now. That's why a lot of people are talking about Jordan Davis. That's why a lot of people are talking about like all of these kinds of solutions, whether it's trade for Fletcher Cox, trade for Akeem Hicks, whatever it is. Like that's why we're talking about that, because they don't have a guy right now on the middle you can trust. And then we talk about their edge players. It's like, yeah, I mean, I like Fackrell and Nwosu occasionally. Rumpf has a few good snaps, but they don't have another guy outside of Joey Bosa. And, you know, unfortunately, that showed this year. So to me, I think there will be pretty much just varying degrees of defensive line play from week to week. I think that this is pretty much the floor in terms of what you're getting from the rest of the defensive line outside of Joey Bosa. But I also don't think the ceiling for that is particularly high, unless you're just getting really like a high energy game from every single other supplementary pass rusher. But that's just not what they've been getting, unfortunately. And so they really need a guy on the interior who can get after the get after the quarterback. They don't have it, and their supplementary edge players are average.
Yeah, it's been frustrating to watch, like the lack of development. Like I'm the first to admit that I was wrong about Jerry Tillery. You know, I saw those flashes.
I've been waiting for it.
You know, those flashes are still happening. Like his one sack today or one pressure today, like that was really good. The rest of the game was awful. So like we're still seeing, you know, the inconsistent Jerry Tillery, which has been very frustrating. Uchenna Nwosu looks really good in certain moments. Like he has the awesome rush that ends up injuring Ryan Fitzpatrick. He had a great rush today, gets a sack. It's just the amount of inconsistencies has been really frustrating from those two players. And, you know, you look at like what they can do. Like, sure, you can trade for Akeem Hicks, trade for Fletcher Cox. Like, you know, there aren't any quality edge rushers that are going to be available to trade. Like, teams do not trade edge rushers like they don't trade, you know, quality offensive tackles. So, you know, I think getting one of those veteran interior defensive tackles will help. But, you know, it's just been frustrating to watch these, you know, other pass rushers who have needed to be developed and aren't. And, you know, Uchenna Nwosu is in a contract year. So, like, who knows, like, what happens there? Kyler Fackrell is an okay player, also in a contract year. And Brandon Staley loves him. Brandon Staley said that he wanted to get him when he was with the Rams. It didn't happen. He made sure to go get him this year. So, you know, they need a lot of help on the defensive line, I think. And, you know, Joey Bosa is getting the Aaron Donald treatment. Like the Ravens were triple teaming him, I saw at least 4 times on a pass play. And the Chargers just don't have anyone to get after it. So, you know, Lamar played really well today, and I give him a lot of credit. The Ravens had a really good game plan to shut down the Chargers pass rush. But at the end of the day, like, you need your other players to win one-on-ones. And this team does not have a Leonard Floyd. It doesn't have a Michael Brockers. It doesn't have a Morgan Fox to consistently do that. Like, if Linval Joseph is your second best pass rusher, you have problems. And it's bad. It's bad right now. And I'm not pushing like the complete panic button for that for a lot of these players yet, but it's trending in that direction right now.
Yeah, at this point, it's very much pick one, right tackle, someone to rush the passer, as it should be in the first round. But like every time I see, you know, Norton give up a sack, there's an edge rusher not doing anything opposite Bosa. So it's like, which one do we go with here? At this point, I'm good with either.
Any thoughts, Alex?
No, I mean, I just don't think any of this is really fixable in the regular season. I think they need a complete personnel change when it comes to the interior defensive line. As far as the supplementary edge rushers behind Bosa, I mean, like Kyler Fackrell's fine, Uchenna Nwosu's fine, but like they don't have another difference maker outside of there, and I think that's become readily apparent so far. So, yeah, I don't know. Like to me, I'm not pushing the panic button, I guess, but also I'm not pushing the panic button because I don't think it can be fixed at this point in the regular season. Like I think it's just something they'll have to address in free agency and the draft in the offseason. Like that's just where this line is at.
Yeah, but please, for the love of God, go get Akeem Hicks to help out. That would be very useful at this point. All right, guys. Any other thoughts from this game before we get into studs and duds?
Not really. Although I was surprised to see how many plays, designed or not, when they counted them to convert, it somehow always went after Humphrey. And I don't know if that was just they happened to get the one-on-ones like that, and that he was just left on an island, and that's why they went there. But it seems like it always seemed to be going to Humphrey, and it never worked.
Yeah, that was a little odd. Marlon Humphrey's really freaking good, and I like Josh Palmer a lot, man. But like throwing to Josh Palmer on a 4th down against Marlon Humphrey, that was pretty confusing. And I understand why it went there, right? You get the one-on-one situation. That's where they want Justin Herbert to go. Trust your player to go make a play. But it would have been nice to see Keenan Allen there, or Austin Eckler, or Mike Williams. So, right as Kevin points out, Staley said after that he trusts Justin Herbert's ability to make the right decision. I don't necessarily hate that decision, but it just would have been nice to see one of the better players there.
Yeah, and I don't know, the Ravens were not super intimidating in the middle of the field in the first half of this game, and the Chargers just decided sort of not to attack it, or when they did attack it, they dropped the ball, and then the Ravens adjusted in the second half and said, okay, we're not going to give you anything in the middle of the field, so we're going to force you into uncomfortable throws where Humphrey is covering or somebody else is going to make a play. So that's really what the problem was. So I think they didn't take advantage of the plays that they could have in the first half. And then in the second half, Herbert just seemed, kind of jittered just from the success or lack thereof in the first 3 quarters or so of the game. I think it really just punished them at that point.
Yeah, it was some weird decision making all around. So let's get into these studs and duds. Before that, we do that. I want to give a shout out to our guy over at the Backroom Collection, doing some firework over there in terms of his Chargers prints. Please go check him out. Has some cool street art graphics up for sale. He's the one who's done this one right behind me for the Chargers rookies. So go check him out. Use the code GAC for 10% off your order. So wanted to give him a shout out. That being said, let's move into these studs and duds. I know one of us is going to talk about Kaiser White. So I'm giving a shout out to Ty Long today. That man has been through hell the last few weeks. Has had a few punts that have been close to blocking. I thought he punted the hell out of the ball today, man. I really thought he played well. Did some good things, had a couple of really good, solid punts. So that's where we're at with today's game. Giving a shout out to the punter. I feel like I'm back talking about the University of Utah's football team from 2014, where their punter Mitch Wisnowski was the best player on the team. So shout out to Ty Long today.
Yeah, shout out to Tai Long. He did good. He should be the kicker, by the way. I don't know if I've made that clear. But no, other than that, Kaiser was good. Really kind of at a loss. I thought Jalen Guyton had a cool punt return that was invalidated by by a penalty. That was fun. I think my stud of the game goes to CBS for turning off the game with 13 minutes left in the 4th quarter. That's my stud of the game. And no one else deserves to be a stud of the game. Tyler can give it to Kaiser. That's fine. I think he's deserving. But no, today was a fucking mess. And I don't think anyone deserves stud. And thank you to the producers at CBS for switching to Chiefs and football team, I guess.
Very nice. Unfortunately, they did not switch it for me, so I had to watch the entire thing.
Yeah, that's the pain of being in the local market.
Yeah, that was neat. That was really fun. Assuming that it was more not going to him and maybe he was open in the middle of the field, I guess I'll say Keenan Allen, because he did have 5 catches on 5 targets. Like when it went to him, he caught it, and he even made a pretty smart heads-up play to penalize himself to prevent an interception. So I guess that's a stud, because when he got involved, he made the play, and then he wasn't involved, and that's a whole other issue. So there's my stud. That's where we're going. So we got Ty Long, CBS, and a receiver with 50 yards. Nice.
Well, okay. Well, I'm doing a second one because Kaiser White deserves a shout out, man. Come on, you guys. Oh, I thought for sure to do
I thought Tyler was going to give it to Kaiser, so that's why I didn't. Then he gave it to Keenan Allen. So
I couldn't give it to Nick Niemann, so I just gave up.
in all seriousness, Kaiser White played
Mhm.
really well today. You know, it's such a tough situation to be in as a linebacker when your defensive line in front of you is just getting tossed around. But I thought Kaiser White played really well, showed a
Mhm.
lot of fight. Um, so let's move to duds. I think I'll let you guys go first since I was trying to, will something into existence that didn't happen with studs.
Uh-huh.
So Tyler, I'll start with you. Who is your dud of the day?
Okay. All right, I'll take the bullet. Justin Herbert. Not that I think he had an awful game by any means. I don't think he had a lot of help with the 4 drops or the play calling, but the guy was just a little bit off. And
Yeah.
there's one play where I don't know if there was safety help, but like Herbert underthrew that ball to Guyton down the sideline. I believe he was credited for one of those self sacks from Pro Football Focus because he took the sack rather than I'm pretty sure hit Guyton open on a corner route. I don't know if he was, but I was pretty sure that was Guyton. And I was pretty sure he was open. Just some high throws all day, some throws that looked a little too strong. Some things just didn't go his way. Again, he's not all to blame at all. And I don't think he even had a bad game, but it wasn't a great game. There were a lot of things he'd love to have back. Just kind of a dead game for him, especially after something like last week.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. We've always said, we try to be fair in our analysis, and as Brandon Staley has said, you got to tell the truth whether you win or lose. So there were a couple times where he misread protections too. Like I can't remember who got the sack from the Ravens, but you have Austin Eckler to the left, and you have 4 rushers from the Ravens on the right side. There was no slide of the protection. Eckler stayed on that left side, and he held on to the ball and got sacked. So there were a couple operational things from Justin Herbert today that I just didn't love. Alex, your dud of the day.
I'll take the other bullet and say Brandon Staley. I think that he's been
That's
getting
fair.
some great clips
Yeah.
on Twitter. Has had a great 5 weeks. Shit the bed in this game though. So that first challenge was really confusing because it was a yard
pointless.
and
Yeah.
they were fighting on it. They lose the timeout there, so I thought that was a bad move. Then you talk about all the confusing personnel decisions, which Staley is in some way responsible for, especially as the defensive coordinator when it comes to the Michael Davis stuff. Then you talk about they're 17-6 at the half. They could have gotten the ball with at least 40 or 45 seconds left, and they just decided not to use their timeout until it's too late. They had 2 remaining, even after the challenge didn't work. And so that was a really confusing end to the half. And it just seemed like the whole game, the team was kind of woefully underprepared for this one. And look, some of that is, hey, it's a rookie coaching staff. Some of that is, hey, it was a 1:00 game in Baltimore,
Sure.
and they weren't ready. But I think Brandon Staley has to be the dud this game, just with confusing decision making, confusing personnel decisions, and ultimately the team just not really being prepared for this game. I think it would have been different if it was mildly competitive, but they just were not set up well from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair as well. I think the challenge to me, it was just a poor decision, like in general. Like we've seen some really good instances of game management from Brandon Staley and the staff, but you're challenging 1 yard, and we all know that if the call does get reversed, that the Ravens are just gonna go for it anyway. So to me, the challenge was just kind of pointless. And then, you get to the end of half, your offense has zero momentum, zero rhythm. Your defense gets a sack. You don't call a timeout. Your defense gets another sack. And then it's like, oh shit, we can get the ball back. Okay, now I'm going to call a timeout. So if you had used your timeouts correctly, not challenged and kept that timeout, you could have reasonably gotten the ball back with about 45, 50 seconds left and then gotten your offense some momentum going into the next half. So I think that's totally reasonable to call Brandon Staley a dud today. I have full confidence that he will bounce back after the bye. My dud of the day, I think it's got to be just the Chargers pass catchers in general. Like we have seen a lot of these drops pop up every once in a while. Today it was really bad. And Jared Cook, one of the things that when I was watching his film from last year that I was kind of concerned about was his ability in contested catch situations. He just doesn't go up and get it with the same kind of energy and juice. And the interception, it was not a great ball by Justin Herbert. It was still catchable. And there's that 3rd down later in the game where he's over the middle. He creates some separation. It was right in your hands, right on his hands, and he dropped it. You know, the Austin Eckler thing, I don't necessarily count that as a drop. That almost ended in an interception, but it was just really bad performance, in my opinion, from the Chargers pass catchers today. Lots of drops, not a whole lot of juice from that group in general. And, you know, it was just not pretty today. I think you could also talk about Chris Harris in this game was not very good, had a bunch of communication issues with Mark Andrews. So I think those two would be my duds for the day.
And I feel like we could keep going. Anybody else got any more?
Oh, there's a lot more duds, but none that I want to talk about. Oh, Darius Swinton, dud.
There you go.
Double dud.
Double dud. Special teams in general outside of Tai Long, major dud. All right, guys, let's wrap up today's show. Or actually, you want to take questions today, or should we just wrap it up?
Let's do questions. Let's get the bad vibes out of the people. Let's calm everybody down.
Let's hear it, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will be doing some questions then. As always, the super chat feature is enabled. I don't think Tyler's parents are in here for this one. So if you want to win that competition, you go right ahead. Other than that, we'll just kind of shout out some things. Let's see. That's an interesting one. Are we questioning Staley's operation of flying to East Coast super late, day before game? I think there is some merit to this, but Brandon Staley really believes in, you know, letting guys sleep in their own beds for another night, and then traveling and having the whole Saturday to be in the new place. I think each coach handles it differently, right? And I'm okay with it right now, but they travel to Philadelphia in a few weeks. And if the team is slow and sluggish in that one, then yeah, I think we probably can talk about that because, you know, they came out with a lot of fire against Washington. So I didn't really have an issue with it then. This game, it wasn't very pretty. So I think this is kind of wait and see until after the Philadelphia game. Because if they come out slow and lose to the Eagles, who are bad, no offense, Alex, then yeah, I think we'll have some issues.
None taken. Also, no, I mean, yeah, they just. I feel like when it comes to the traveling to the East Coast stuff, there just is a larger sample size needed at this point. Like, I don't, you know, They came out hot with the Washington game, didn't come out good with this one. But they're going to get their, you know, good chunk of East Coast games to see, you know, whether that strategy is good or not. But like I said, you know, we just talked about 50 minutes worth of other problems that they had than, you know, what time they got out of bed this morning. So to me, you know, it's something that you can mention, but it's not anything that I'm blaming this game on personally.
No, and I think to some degree that this might have been voted on by the players as well. There was some input there. I'm sure they also wanted to lean this way. So again, maybe that it's a mistake, but I don't think it's necessarily on Staley specifically. But we'll see. We got a lot of East Coast coming up.
Yeah. I mean, the Rams do this too, and they absolutely destroy the Giants today. So I think every coach does it differently. You know, the Niners, whenever they have back-to-back East Coast trips, they try to like stay on the East Coast. Some people like to travel back. It just kind of depends, but I think it's kind of wait and see here. Sebastian Saldana with an interesting question. Was worse, this one or the Patriots lost last year? I think for me, it's the Patriots. Like, I think last year against the Patriots was just an utter domination against a not very good Patriots team. Like, this one, at least the Ravens are a good team. So I can flush this one and hate it for now. But I mean, the Ravens are a good team. Like, this kind of happens. Last year against the Patriots was just an utter domination by a very bad Patriots team.
Yeah, the Pats one is way worse than this one. I mean, 45-0 is 45-0. But no, I mean, like, that also was just like the complete end of an era. I mean, that was Anthony Lynn getting fired basically that game, and the whole team imploded. Like, you know, as much as this loss sucks, I do think we have to keep perspective and just be like, well, look, we're 4-2 heading into the bye. And, you know, we kind of move forward. Like, but to me, a lot of their issues from this game were correctable. None of the issues last year were correctable after the Patriots game.
Right.
Yeah, the worst game I've watched was not last year's Patriots game. It was the divisional round where we got all those momentum after beating the Ravens, and it's like, here we go, and they get absolutely slaughtered by the Patriots. I don't know. I kind of okay. Watching last year's game against the Patriots was worse, but this one, it might have bigger ramifications at the end of the year. It will because they're competing for a postseason spot. Could come down to the first seed, second seed, third seed. Who knows? So I think this loss is going to hurt them more. But it was easier to watch than last year for sure.
Well, I didn't even get to watch the fourth quarter because CBS changed it. I was just listening to the radio of Daniel Jeremiah and Matthew Money Smith. So they did a good job, I guess. But yeah, CBS changed it on me. I can't say I've ever seen a game like that before.
CBS changed it, and I could have gone to NFL International Game Pass if I really wanted to watch the last 10 minutes of the game. I didn't.
Yeah, I can't say I feel bad for anybody who was there. I Need a Bot apparently was there. Beautiful game. The stadium was rocking. I mean, the Ravens that's a place that I think is really underrated when it comes to hard places to play. So if you were at the game, I hope you had a good tailgate experience and a good ride home. But I do not envy anyone that had to watch that in person.
I mean, to me, I also feel maybe less disappointed than other people are, just because everyone else was talking about like how Lamar was a running back this week still, and like I'm like, no, the Ravens are actually really good. I don't know if you guys know this. So to me, the Chargers were disappointing, but like Rohan says in the chat, like, I mean, the Ravens were favored by 3, to be fair. Like, to me, they were the better team with home field advantage. So to me, I don't think this is the worst loss ever.
Looks like we have another Ravens fan in here. Rob Jack, thanks for tuning in, I guess. Apparently he says, thought y'all was going to give us a game. SMH better like next time. I think if they play again down the road, I think it'll be a much better game. I think that the Chargers team is so young in pretty much every aspect of the game that this is it's going to be a learning experience. I do believe that this team is going to bounce back from this and be able to kind of fix their mistakes. And Derwin James said today, like, it was pretty clear what we need to work on and take that going forward. Also, one thing that we need to talk about, Derwin James was in a complete like robe of ice after this game.
Yeah.
So that man is going through it right now. I noticed that he was wearing a shoulder brace today, which I can't say I noticed last week. So I think Derwin James is very happy that they're going to be on a bye week this week.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's little nicks and bruises like Joey Bosa, I'm sure, is probably more banged up than is showing on the injury report. So yeah, getting the stars healthy would be nice. Also, what's his name? Rob Jack, just want to let you know that it's customary when after a loss and an opposing fan comes on the podcast, they send a super chat because the Dallas Cowboys fans already beat you. Yeah. I'm just saying it's customary. You got to send a super chat now.
Yeah, all right, guys. Let us know if you have any questions. This is your time.
All right, for those who are in the chat and listening, how far do the Chargers go now that you've seen this and now that they're into the bye? How far does this team go?
Alex, you want to comment on that?
Oh, do I go first? Okay. Divisional round.
Yeah.
So make the playoffs. They're a wild card team. They win the wild card game and then they lose in the divisional. That's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, or they win the division. Either they win or lose the division. But they're going to be effectively playing on wild card weekend either way, possibly, because they already lost to the Ravens, who are now in position for the 1 seed. So whatever formation it is, I do think they get to the divisional round and then lose. But again, like, I don't think this loss means they can't beat the Ravens or can't beat a tough team come playoff time. But based on what I saw today, like, a lot of things need to be fixed before we start talking about AFC Championship and Super Bowl.
Let's go, Rob Jack. Let's go. Oh, I love it.
Let's go,
Rob Jack. I appreciate it. We need that dollar. We'll split it 33 cents a piece.
Good, he's being a good sport, though. I like that.
Yes, he is.
Jay Blue sent in a super chat. Can this team fix the defense, and how?
I'm going to say, well, health pending. Yes, because they're playing a bunch of shit teams. But into that, let's say the postseason, can they fix the defense? Let's say the best of the AFC is there. The Browns are there. Well, we'll see how they are. The Ravens, the Chiefs, can they fix this defense? I think what you're getting is kind of what you're getting. You might have more of a, Dallas Cowboys, defense, not their defense, but the way the Chargers played against the Cowboys, sort of game. But otherwise, I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better. I don't think it's really fixable unless they make trades.
I think some things are fixable in the interim. Like there's things that you can scheme differently. One of them being don't take your best cornerback off the field. I think that that's one way that you can fix your defense. I think that another way you can fix your defense is just by getting guys back, right? Like Nasir Adderley and Justin Jones. I don't think they fix all of your problems, but I do think they help you, right? Just so health is part of it. Getting Joey Bosa and Derwin James, like that helps in the interim. Other than that, like maybe you can make a trade for Akeem Hicks, but to me, when I look at this defensive line in the grand scheme of things, when I look at right now this linebacker group, obviously I have to mention getting Kenneth Murray and Tranquil back, whenever that comes. But when I look at this defense in the interim, and for the rest of the season, it's more a personnel issue with their defensive line that I don't think can be fixed at the offseason. But I think the things at the second level and third level of the defense in particular still can be remedied, at least at this point.
Yeah, I think they can certainly do some things to help it, right? Like getting Drew Tranquil back, getting Nasir Adderley back will help. Getting Justin Jones back will help. I think if you are looking at this defensive line right now, and you get Justin Jones back, and then you trade for Akeem Hicks or you trade for a Fletcher Cox, that helps, right? Like that's going to be better than the current situation. Then you can move Jerry Tillery into more of a pass rushing specialist kind of role. Unfortunately, that would mean that, Forrest Merrill, Braden Fajoko are back on the practice squad for those guys. But, like there are things that they can do that can help, right? Like if you go making a really aggressive move for a Christian Wilkins or, something like that, those things all help. But in terms of like becoming a great defense, it's going to take another offseason, right? Like this is, a long-term build. And unfortunately, the offense had, the majority of the resources this year. So in the short term, make a trade for a defensive tackle, get these guys back healthy, stop taking Michael Davis off the field, and maybe you can get to the high teens. I think that would be, probably best case scenario for this defense at this point.
Yeah, and I'll say the optimist view on both defense and special teams.
Okay,
the optimist view is
sorry, optimist view. Okay, Alex.
The optimist view is they're so bad right now on both of those that they can't get worse. It only can go up from here. You know what? So if Tristan Vizcaino starts making his extra points, that would help. If they play Michael Davis, that would help. Like, you got to build it a little bit brick by brick. So I think they can get better. There's my optimist take of the week.
Nice.
Yeah, they can absolutely get better. I think this is, again, it's not going to turn into a great defense all of a sudden. Like Derwin James in the offseason said, like, our goal is to be the number one defense. That's not happening. But I think they can get into, a serviceable run defense, get into, a defense that creates some more takeaways. I think more blitzing would help in this situation. I think the Chargers were like 23rd in blitz rate heading into this week. Get that up to 19th, 18th, create some more havoc that way and kind of help your struggling pass rushers out. But there are other things that they can do, right? Like this is not like the end all be all. Like this currently shitty defense is not going to be shitty forever. And, it's just, you got to tweak some things, make adjustments. And I think they're doing that, right? Like Joey Bosa was playing a lot more 3 technique, 4 technique today. And so they're doing things to mix things up a little bit. Chris Harris is playing safety. Granted, that was kind of out of necessity because of Nasir Adderley. So, this defense is going to make adjustments. It's not like we're dealing with Gus Bradley, who's just going to be like, okay, well, just be better next week. So, I think that is the thing. Like they're trying to mix things up and they're trying to do some different things. And I do expect it to be better. Not expecting it to be like, a crazy turnaround, but I do think it'll be better from here on out. And like Tyler said, they're not exactly playing powerhouse offenses from here on out.
Thomas Martinez asks, what do they do when Jones and Murray come back on the roster? Fehoko, Merrill, Gaziano, all the cut candidates. Anybody else?
That's such a tough one, and that's what I was kind of talking about before. Although I thought Merrill was going to be active today, and he wasn't.
Yeah,
which is a surprise. I don't know because I don't know what they want out of their front anymore because now all three guys are different. Fajoko's nose tackle, defensive tackle. Merrill is probably just going to need a lot of A gap. Gaziano seems to be more, he can go rush like outside the tackle. So I feel like you have all three different guys there. So I don't know who you cut. Unfortunately, with Fehoko, Merrill, and Gaziano, the last 2 weeks they've had like a run stop combined. So it's not like they're making it easy to make a decision here. They have protected Fehoko the last 2 weeks. Yeah. So that might indicate something. But then again, Merrill and Gaziano were the ones on the roster. So I don't know. If Jones comes back, you probably cut Fehoko then.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Murray coming back, I don't know who do you bail on? Because they like Campbell. It's not like they're cutting him. Oh, who is no? I don't know. Wait, who's there's what's his name? So Hymas is on the roster, obviously, and then the other guy is on the roster, but he was the active one today. That just doesn't. I don't know. That's the part that's confusing. It's not
Clemente or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So in terms of the defensive line, like I think Gaziano will stick. I think the initial plan for this defensive line was you have two nose tackle defensive tackle types in Joseph and Covington. Then you have three defensive tackle / defensive end types in Jones, Tillery, and Eric Banks. So Gaziano is in for Eric Banks at this point. And so I think we see Justin Jones in for Merrill or Fehoko. Fehoko is going to be an interesting one because they have to sign him to the active roster before the next game or waive him and hope he can get back on the practice squad. But I think Gaziano sticks. I think Gaziano sticks as that fifth defensive lineman. I didn't really see him much today. Can't really recall him playing all that much, but it seems like that's their plan, right? Is you want the three defensive tackle, defensive end types, and then two defensive tackle / nose tackle types. So I think Jones will take the place of Merrill or Fehoko.
Yeah. Let's see. What did Gaziano have today? Gaziano had... Don't think he's on the stat sheet. Neither is Fehoko. What a day.
Well, there's part of the problem.
Right. That is part of the problem right now because you have three undrafted free agents, playing major, contributions along the defensive line. So players that I like, but it's just in a poor situation. So Justin Jones, if you could fix that calf right up real quick, come back after the bye, that would be fantastic. But we'll see. All right, guys, any other final thoughts before we head out for today's show?
Just happy to be here at the bye week. Somebody did ask if we're going to be doing stuff during the bye week. We will be. It won't be. Yeah, we'll be here.
Final thoughts.
Yeah, we'll be here during the bye week. As the negative one, I'm not going to yell at you and tell you that I was right about the win. I will pick you up and say, let's get them. Let's beat the Patriots. You know what? We're going to do it. This is the year that we're going to defeat a Boston sports team. You know what? Let's do it. Other than that, look, I mean, I think the team is 4-2 and, you move forward. I think there's things they can fix. They have a fairly easy stretch of games coming up. The Patriots are getting better, but after that, it's the Eagles, the Vikings, and the Steelers who haven't looked particularly good. So if you're looking for reasons for optimism, I think there are some. Justin Herbert's not going to have that bad of a game again. Right. I think that's probably going to be his worst one of the season. So, I don't think it's the end of the world. I just wanted to give one shout out to Urban Meyer and Carson Wentz for making me go 2-0 in the picks this week. So Urban, you're welcome for me picking you.
Yeah, watch the Steelers are going to win too because that's how this week is going.
And I went last.
Just a weird week in the NFL. But, at the end of the day, for me, like, we all kind of assumed that this team would be 3-3 at this point. They're 4-2. It obviously really sucks that today's game went this kind of way. I think if we had just kind of witnessed a competitive loss, I think obviously we would feel very different heading into this show and coming out of this show. But I do expect the Chargers to bounce back. I think this bye week could not be coming at a better time in terms of health. You can get some reinforcements coming out of the bye week. And like Alex is saying, that was probably the worst we'll see Justin Herbert all year long. I firmly believe that he will bounce back from this. I think Brandon Staley will bounce back from this, and very winnable schedule of games coming up. So this was the gauntlet, right? Like this was the end of the difficult schedule. And I think that our expectations that we had after the Browns game should remain that way. I think that the Chargers still should be looked at as playoff contenders, as potential, AFC champion kind of team. Obviously, they need some help. They have to get healthy. But I think overall, this doesn't really change how I feel about the team. Just really sucks that it went this way. But 4-2 is 4-2. I think that's a good thing and should be celebrated. But yeah, tough day for the Chargers today.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you were able to take some solace and kind of get some closure on today's loss. Flush it down the toilet, because I think that's what the team is going to do. We will be doing stuff throughout the bye week. Got some fun interviews scheduled for this upcoming week that I cannot wait to share with you. Thank you for supporting the show. As always, leave us a comment, leave us a rating or review if you're listening to the audio version of this show, and we will see you guys next time.